Is this going? It says that it's going, but there we go. Okay. All right, cool. We are live. Technical difficulties as per usual. Also, I'm trying something a little bit different today. I'm trying to have the actual stream open on a different screen so I can make sure that I get all of these super chats. And it's really weird because I can see myself, and actually now I can see that there's actually a huge delay in between the actual like YouTube stream and what pops up over on StreamYard. So that's interesting. All right, so let's go for this. Sorry, I'm looking for a snack. Okay. So, hello everyone. I already see that Robin Patty is in the house with a super chat, so I guess I better start this off with a drink of water. And she says, Trump won, Bloomberg brought his wallet to a knife fight, and I feel better than James Brown. Oh, and sponsors. Speaking of sponsors, let's see if I can get this. Oh, I can't get it. If I can get my shirt in there and still get my face and everything in there properly. All right. So, in honor of today's debate and the socialists, aka communists, and some socialists that we'll be talking about today, today's main partner is Libertarian Country and their Enjoy Capitalism shirt. So you can get this shirt, which is like super soft, by the way. This shirt and many others over at Libertarian Country. You can check them out down in the description. And every shirt that you buy, a small percentage of that actually gets kicked back to the channel to help keep the lights on. So, we've got that, and I do want to remind everyone that still until the end of February, if you sign up for USCCA using the link down in the description, you will be entered for a chance to win $25,000. And again, a reminder with My Patriot Supply that there have been, to my understanding, some shipping delays here and there based on the high demand because of all the coronavirus hullabaloo. So if you are looking to order for My Patriot Supply, make sure when you order it should tell you right on the website if there are any delays for your location. So let's see who we've got in here. I already got Robin Patty. Squid Monkey is here, and now I can see in the chat when people tag me, so that's cool. Ravens and Flies is here. Thomas Taylor, Iron Daisies. I saw Sam Colton there already somewhere. Meathead, Jesse Meek is here. Lord Dante, Gary Hendricks, Brian Freeberg. Q is in, of course. Andrew, thank you for the compliment. Moreau family is here from Massachusetts. Brian Freeberg says he's from Idaho. People from Washington State, Louisiana, Iowa, Pennsylvania, Florida. Whole bunch of people. Michigan, Delaware, Arkansas. Oh, South Carolina. Someday I'll be there. Virginia. Eagle Tooth is from the occupied territory of Illinois. And Robin Patty is, of course, from Tennessee. And a whole bunch of messages just came up all at one time, which is awkward. So, all right, let me grab these. So Trashman4444 apparently does the intros now, and that's just how we roll. So, live from the home of the revolution, it's the lady who has shrunk more heads than all the cannibals of New Guinea, who leads death-defying epic adventures in her spare time. Here's Dolly. I wish I had someone with like a cool, like deep movie trailer voice to read that. And then Jim Folke says, thanks, I'm a newbie. All right, guys. So the big topic today is the debate. Let me scroll way back down so I can see as this is going. So the debates, interesting stuff. So I had to hunt down a couple links. I will pop these in the chat for you guys. So interestingly enough, finding a full video of the debates was not easy. In fact, it was rather difficult. I did not watch them while they were happening because I don't have cable, and I was busy doing something else and was not aware of that it was even on at the time. It was way after the fact, actually, when I saw all the comments about sick burns on Facebook and Twitter. So I decided I had to check it out. And like I said, it was quite the chore to find a full video of this. And in fact, I don't even know if that video has been taken down, because that's what happened last time around. Is I had a video of the debates, and then it was taken down after. And actually several of the ones, I don't have timestamps, unfortunately, for all the clips that I'm going to be using today. And I had to bounce between a few different sources because I would watch one video and start watching it and be like taking down timestamps, and then that video would suddenly be made private. So then I found another video and the same thing happened and the same thing happened. So hopefully we've got this one here. So Liberty Dude is saying that he thought that it was the Jerry Springer show. Not quite, but close enough. I have a few clips here that we can say are probably good summaries of this, and that's unfortunate that it opens right away. So let's see. So I'm doing this on a little bit of a different program here. So there we go. Oh, this is interesting. Chrome tab. So I'm doing this in Chrome so you guys can get the audio, and it's totally different than when I do it in Firefox, actually. So, you know what? We'll do it this way. Sorry, guys. That won't work. Darn it. Okay. So, all right, we'll go with this. Share audio. Bam. So it can basically be summed up like this.
On Medicare for All, you don't put your money.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that puts a wrench in some things, doesn't it? Okay. Huh. So I'm using my Ethernet cable, and yeah, it's I guess we'll remove that. All right, so that's interesting. So I went to go do my first clip, and YouTube wouldn't work. So this will be fun. This is gonna be really fun. All right. Oh dear. Well, so then we'll go through. Basically, that was a clip. There was a couple clips. One of Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg just yelling over each other, and then Biden and Sanders yelling over each other, and then there was clown music at the end of it. Anyway, so we'll try this again with some other clips. So, in case you haven't heard, Bloomberg has put a record 400 million, I believe, into ads for this election. In fact, I don't think that you can really go through Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, any place really without seeing one of these ads from Bloomberg, right? They're just everywhere. I've been getting a lot of complaints about them being in front of my videos, actually. And what's funny is sometimes those videos aren't even monetized. A lot of times they're not even monetized, and yet they have Michael Bloomberg ads in front of them. And I have no control over what ads go up in front of my videos. But you know, we already knew that he and Everytown for gun safety put millions and millions of dollars into Virginia. Now they're putting millions and millions of dollars into Texas and trying to advance gun control there. And now they're putting, of course, millions and millions and millions of dollars into this election. And again, that $400 million was just for ads. Okay, it wasn't even for anything else with the campaign. Ads only. I'm going to move these windows around again to see if I can get this thing going here appropriately while we chat. Let's go. So, millions and millions of dollars in ads. And yet he's not on the ballot in Nevada, which is where this debate took place. He hasn't really gotten any votes anywhere yet. Unfortunately, Sanders and Pete Buttigieg, of all people, are leading. Elizabeth Warren's falling off, Joe Biden's falling off, and pretty much anyone else isn't even a contender at all. They're getting single-digit vote percentages. Oh my goodness. Lots of super chats. I will grab these super chats because I'm back in the other window and we'll see how this goes. I Sell Cat Litter says, I love how they are treated like kindergartens. Raise your hands, class, raise your hands. Cheech and Chong, 1967. There is a lot of that. They didn't rely on like buzzers or lights or anything this time. There was a lot of hand raising. Thank you, Theo Snell. Dragon's Talon 1001 says, hey LD, is it time to replace the hamster driving your internet connection? So I actually have I am paying an exorbitant amount for internet in this office. I have the highest tier I can get without paying $500 a month. And I have an Ethernet cable that's plugged in, but Comcast is just ridiculous. And half the time things don't work. Trashman says, if only they shut up abruptly in real life. So, and Multi-Drider says, look on bright side, Bloomberg is supporting your channel and others, as Andrew from the chopping block said. That's true. And I have said that in the past, because in the past, I had some videos that were critical of Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, and yet Warren and Sanders ads were going before my videos, so that's cool, I guess. Bloomberg is certainly wasting his time with my channel, I can tell you that. So let's try to pull up some of these here. You might have seen, and I really hate to admit it, Bloomberg's got some good people on his media team. He's got some bad people because there's been some really weird ads and blurbs that they've put together. There was the one of him like going in like he was going to shake a dog's hand and then grabbed it by like the top jaw and like shook the dog's head. That was awkward. There was one about him like, I'm eating ice cream. But then we had this one off of Twitter, which was hilarious and had news people scrambling to figure out, to fact check it. Oddly enough, they had fact checkers working. They had fact checkers working on this to find out if there were, in fact, crickets on stage. So we'll do this one. This one he put up on Twitter. Check this out.
I'm the only one here that thinks it's ever started a business. Is that fair? Okay. I'm the only one here.
I hate to admit that I laughed when I saw that. And I'm laughing even now. I mean, it's ridiculous. And there were legitimately, it was very much like Trump's meme about the dog getting the Medal of Honor, where people were actually scrambling to fact check if that's what actually happened during debates. Spoiler alert, it's not. That was, those were a bunch of different clips from different parts in it, but it was too good. Too good. So, as I said earlier, right now in most of the polls and, well, in most of the primaries so far. Sanders is leading. There was the whole weird Iowa upset where it's, oh, is it Bernie Sanders? Is it Pete Buttigieg? And there was the whole issue around the app that they used that had been getting money from Pete Buttigieg and a company that he was involved with, and then a company that Hillary Clinton was involved with, and all of this. But despite that, it is looking very much like Bernie Sanders is the front runner here and is going to get the primary. And for some reason, with all of the antics during this debate, for the most part, people were attacking Bloomberg rather than Bernie Sanders. They were attacking the guy that, you know, despite all of his money that he's been pouring in, really has yet to get any votes. There was also some cat fights between Mayor Pete and Amy Klobuchar because apparently they hate each other, but they're sort of like non-factors at this point. So let me grab these super chats. I'm going to try really hard to keep up with them today. And before I go into some of these clips, thank you, Timothy came. And okay, that's it for now. So we have a lot of different clips here, and I really wish that I could open them up and then they wouldn't start automatically. So we're gonna try something here. I'm gonna give you my notes on the screen and click in it so it'll just go right to it. We'll do it that way. Because why the hell not, right? Oh, really? Oh, this is so disappointing.
I'd like to talk about who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg. Democrats are not going to win if we have a nominee who has a history of hiding his tax returns, of harassing women, and of supporting racist policies like redlining and stop and frisk. Look, I'll support whoever the Democratic nominee is.
Except Bloomberg.
But understand this. Democrats take a huge risk if we just substitute one arrogant billionaire for another.
I mean, and she's not entirely wrong on this one. I hate to say it because, I mean, Bloomberg, he does come off as pretty arrogant, does he? And I mean, he has a similar history to Donald Trump, actually, where he spent some time as a Republican and then announced that he was a Democrat, and he's running on the Democratic ticket now, while Trump was a Democrat for quite some time and then switched over to the Republican ticket. They both make F tons of money. And so, I mean, they have some similarities in that and in the way that Bloomberg talks to people. Oh, my God. It's it's an interesting time. And especially like the fact that he is this businessman and he has all of this money, which they harp on and harp on and harp on several times throughout this debate. And a lot of times in this debate, really the first 45 minutes practically was an attack on Michael Bloomberg and how similar he is to Donald Trump. And I mean, he does have a very smug, arrogant, sort of elitist attitude, I feel like, especially, of course, when it comes to gun control, right? Because his whole thing is that poorer people should not have guns. He is allowed to have armed security and all of that because he has the money to pay for it. But people that can't afford that shouldn't. And therefore, they shouldn't have guns. And he knows what's best. I mean, that is sort of inherently a leftist attitude that they know best and they know what to do for everyone else because no one else can make their own decisions. So she's not wrong in that. I didn't even know that about his comments, I guess, about these horse-faced lesbians. That's a new one to me. And then we have this from Amy Klobuchar. I guess if it's going to band with me every time.
But I want to say this. I
actually welcomed Mayor Bloomberg to the stage. I thought that he shouldn't be hiding behind his TV ads. And so I was all ready for this big day. And then I looked at the memo from his campaign staff this morning. And it said that he actually thought that three of us should get out of the way. That is what...
He's not entirely wrong with that either. I mean, if we were looking at this not from us as outsiders that are horrified about all of these candidates, if we were actually on the Democrat side, someone probably should step out of the way. The whole thing with Trump way back when is they all figured that, he could never get any of the votes because he was all crazy and radical and boorish and thuggish. But he did get the votes in the end. And surprisingly, though, he did not perform really any better than any previous Republicans. He performed about the same, but everyone thought that he couldn't get the vote. So, I mean, really, if the DNC is looking to streamline this to a particular candidate, they should be telling other people to step out of the way. Instead, they've got this situation where it looks like Bernie is probably going to get the Well, I don't know if I can say that he'll get the nomination. He is getting the delegates from the primaries. What happens after that fact? The DNC has a habit of changing the rules last minute, and this is not something that is strictly relegated to them. The Republican committee did it way back in 2012 with Ron Paul. I saw it firsthand with my own eyes at the caucuses trying to get the delegates. They were up there and they were changing all the rules last second to keep out the people that they didn't want to keep out. So this thing about, people should be stepping back. I mean, theoretically, he's right. But mostly I just like the look on his face. Oh, God, he looks like a smug turtle. I want to throw some expletives in there, too. But he looks like a smug bleeping turtle, we'll say.
What his campaign said, because we should pave the way for him to become the nominee. I have been told as a woman, as someone that maybe no one thought was still going to be standing up on this stage, but I am because of pure grit and because of the people out there. I've been told many times to wait my turn and to step aside. And I'm not going to do that now. And I'm not going to do that because a campaign memo from Mayor Bloomberg said this morning that the only way that we get a nominee is if we step aside for him. I think.
And things like that is actually exactly what will cost Bloomberg the nomination, is because they're twisting it to say like, oh, well, you said a woman can't win. You don't think that I can win. You're telling me to sit down and shut up. Basically, things like that are certainly going to cost him the election. And I'm perfectly fine with that because we all know around here that we are not fans of Bloomberg. Oops, I clicked on the wrong one. Robin Patty says, give them boxing gloves on stage and live live like Survivor between debates where one gets voted off each time. Well, I mean, technically, some people already did get voted off. Yang got voted off. Tulsi, I mean, I think that she's still kicking around, but I mean, she doesn't have a chance. Who else? Oh, that other, oh goodness. Steyer doesn't have a chance. He's not on the stage. And I forget, I can't even remember who else. Beto, of course, gone. There was the other guy that was talking Spanish all the time. Don't remember his name. A lot of these people were really unmemorable, actually. But that's not all. There are more pick on Mike moments. It keeps going. So this one actually started as a clip this was originally a question that was posed to Bernie Sanders about medical transparency and the fact, that he had a heart attack basically and said that he was going to release all of his medical records to prove that he was perfectly fine. And then he didn't. Instead, he released a letter from his doctor that said that he was fine to continue on the campaign trail, which is not how things used to be. It used to be that people would actually release medical reports, and then Trump came along, and then he sort of started this precedent of releasing letters, and that was it. And so Bernie, of course, took it and ran with it. I'm not going to fault that for him. I'm not going to fault him for that. So this question was posed to Bernie about transparency for his medical records and tax records and all this thing. And even this was able to be twisted to be an attack on Bloomberg. Check it out.
Including most of you on stage, have criticized President Trump for his lack of transparency. But Senator Sanders, when you were here in Las Vegas in October, you were hospitalized with a heart attack. Afterwards, you pledged to make, quote, all your medical records public. You released 3 letters from your doctors, but you now said you won't release anything more. What happened to your promise of full transparency?
Well, I think we did. Let me tell you what happened. First of all, you're right. And thank you, Las Vegas, for the excellent medical care I got in the hospital 2 days.
Dodge. That's a total dodge.
And I think the one area maybe that Bloomberg and I share, you have 2 stents as well. 25 years ago. Well, we both have 2 stents. It's a procedure that it's done about 1 million times a year.
So basically what he's saying is, you guys might think that I am sick and old, but he's sick and old too. I promise. He's sick and old too. I mean, that was pretty mild, but it's anything and everything they could. They used as an attack on Bloomberg instead. It was pretty funny. So shortly after that, Joe Biden talked about how he's the only one that can beat Donald Trump and how he's #1 in the polls, which is a flat out lie. I have not seen a single poll in several weeks that had Biden on top for anything. And then, of course, after that, Warren went into this whole thing talking about the housing crisis, and she linked it to stop and frisk and all of this, and to talk about how racist Bloomberg is. And now, admittedly, stop and frisk was a horrible policy, and it was a pretty racist policy, and I do have some clips about that coming up. But she talked about the housing crisis and said that Bloomberg completely flat out blamed Black and brown people for that rather than the banks. Well, the banks took part in it, but really it goes back to Barack Obama's policies and Bill Clinton's policies that allowed for banks to do these subprime mortgages in the first place, which they are doing again now, by the way. And then it's interesting because she actually used to be against the policies that allowed that. And then as soon as she announced her candidacy, she talked about the importance of making sure that everyone can buy a house and everyone can become a homeowner. Statements like that are exactly what allowed these subprime mortgages and all of these things to happen in the first place. And then she goes on about the banks and how we need to pass a law so the banks can't do this, even though the laws allowed the banks to do it in the first place. So it's the same thing. So then what also came up was apparently Bloomberg has a bunch of people that he has NDAs or NDAs with. Non-disclosure agreements. I'm not sure the nature of these. When you are a big business person with big businesses, frankly, a lot of times these places have NDAs to stop like company secrets from going through, or whatever. I don't know. Sometimes they're shady, sometimes they're not. I don't really know the nature of these, but I figure Bloomberg's a shady dude, so these are probably pretty shady. So now the whole argument is, Gardner, I see, hello. So this is from Libertarian Country, and they are linked down in the description. So yeah, so Bloomberg's a shady dude. So I imagine that his NDAs are around some pretty shady things. So this came up. The accusation is that they were sexual harassment claims, that he had people sign an NDA so that none of that information could come out. And this is what Elizabeth Warren had to say about that. Oh, really? An ad? They can get ads, but I can't.
Tried to silence the women.
None of them accused me of doing anything other than maybe they didn't like the joke I told.
Maybe they didn't like a joke I told, but that's the same thing that got Donald Trump into trouble. So if any leftist comes out and defends Michael Bloomberg over people don't liking my jokes, that is completely hypocritical, because I'm sure his jokes were in poor taste. Donald Trump's jokes were in very poor taste and very inappropriate, but I'm not surprised by either of them saying things like that because of who they are. And like, I'm sorry, I know that there are a lot of people that love Trump and love anything that he does. I'm not commenting on his policies at this moment. I'm commenting on his character. Dude's a rich womanizer, and I'm sure that Bloomberg is as well. I mean, and it's not really, I mean, they certainly don't have the looks to do it, so it's all about the money, that's for sure. But so he goes on.
And let me put, there's agreements between two parties that wanted to keep it quiet, and that's up to them.
We are not going to beat Donald Trump with a man who has who knows how many non-disclosure agreements and the drip, drip, drip of stories of women saying they have been harassed. And
this reminds me, for some reason, of the binders full of women. Let's see if we can do this a little bit better here so that it's not so choppy. Oh, of course. So that put it back into bandwidth. Apparently switching the quality isn't really doing anything to the bandwidth here.
discriminated against. That's not what we do as Democrats.
That's really, really annoying, actually. So this'll be a great stream if that kind of stuff keeps happening. So there you have it. And then, so, you know, she says this, I mean, and she's not wrong, again, that if you're trying to beat Donald Trump, probably don't want to use a guy that possibly has a whole bunch of sexual harassment allegations against him. The drip, 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 as she says. I mean, and again, that would be another thing, that if leftists come out and they're trying to defend Michael Bloomberg, that would be completely hypocritical, though we know that they have no problem with being hypocritical. So then after that, Michael Bloomberg tries to explain himself a little bit and apologize a little bit. And he gives this long, drawn-out apology. And Warren counters with this.
Oh my god, it's way better. I can't believe that.
Oh my god, it's not letting me skip the ads.
What his defense was. I've been nice to some women.
He's been nice to some women. Oh, goodness. And then there's a few like major smackdowns. Your video clip volume is 3 times lower than your mic volume. Okay, so I don't actually know. I think to pop it up, I will have to put in headphones, because then otherwise the sound will come across on my mic. So what's supposed to be happening is I'm using Chrome, so you guys are supposed to be getting the sound directly, and it's not supposed to be coming from my microphone. So let's try this. And we'll see if that goes and if that works. Because I don't imagine it would be if I turn the volume up on the clip itself. And I actually ended up closing the window that had my own stream in it because it was making things lag all crazy and weird. So we'll try this again and we'll see what this happens. So we have another clip here. And we'll see if the volume, I have the volume full on my end. So we'll see if you guys can hear this, actually. Oh, God. Wow. All right. I'm gonna see if I can play here and get rid of shut the plugins off and see if get rid of some plugins and see if that does anything. Because the whole stream is supposed to be based on clips. Let's see. We'll turn that off, and that's actually the only plugin and extension. So we'll close that off and then try and open again and see what happens. Were you guys able to hear that clip? Let me know if you guys could hear that, because if not, can't hear a thing. No volume. Okay. So then I did this in shitty Chrome for no reason. All right. So the whole reason I did this in Chrome as opposed to Firefox, which is what I normally use, is because when I use Chrome, it's supposed to give you guys the sound of the clips directly instead of them coming from my microphone. And I really hate using Chrome with this program because it just sucks so bad. And apparently that was irrelevant. So I wonder if switching over to Firefox is going to change like the bandwidth issue. We'll see. All right, so I'm sorry, guys. It was silent. Yeah, we could not hear that. Okay. Oh, man, I hate Chrome so much. It sucks so bad. Let me grab these super chats here because I see that I missed a few. Sofa King, good. I'm going to say it that way so that I don't get in trouble. Says, thanks from Jim in Leesburg, Virginia. And hopefully I did not miss any. Let me go into this side of the app because I don't want to... It's really rude when I miss them, even if it's, you know, by accident. I mean, we are going hardcore tech difficulties and all that crap today, and I do apologize for that. Let me make sure I grab all of these. Yeah, Jesse Meek says we can barely hear the video clips. Can barely hear it. Mr. Jones says, don't give them boxing gloves. Let them each use a hammer and sickle. Okay. So let's try this again. And we'll see, I guess, if I pump up the volume on my end. Oh, see, and now in Firefox, I click on the clip and it doesn't start automatically, which is exactly what I wanted. So that's what we'll do from now on. All right, so I'm going to put that volume all the way up, and I'll put my volume on my actual speakers up. Did you hear that beep? This is so weak. I'm sorry, guys. Gardner says, if need be and you can't use Firefox right away, whoops, perhaps try your phone to call up and play the clips on that. No problem either way. Well, we'll try this way.
Odds. Mike Bloomberg owns more wealth than the bottom 125 million Americans.
I kind of doubt
That's
that,
wrong.
but
That's immoral. This is ridiculous.
We're not going to throw out capitalism. We tried that. Other countries tried that. It was called communism, and it just didn't work.
everyone's like, oh no, he said the C word, oh no.
Let's talk about democratic socialism, not communism, Mr. Bloomberg. That's a cheap shot.
Is it though? Is it really? I mean, Bernie is, I mean, he says that it's democratic socialism, but like He honeymooned in the USSR. He supported communist Cuba. He was all about Nicaragua. I mean, he is hiding under this veil, calling it democratic socialism. So what? It's socialism in which you can vote? Really, what it is communism. So finally, after a while here, Bloomberg decides that he's going to go and take a clip at Bernie after this. And, this is a while after how Bernie talks about he's for the working people and he's for the working class, even though the man has not worked a single day in his life, and he has instead his whole working career has been politics and nothing else. He has never done anything else with his life, but he's for the working man. So Bloomberg counters with this. And I really resent the fact that he also had some sick burns, and this is one of them.
Billionaire for another.
I can't think of ways that would make it easier for Donald Trump to get reelected than listening to this conversation. This is ridiculous. We're not going to throw out capitalism.
This is the same.
That. Other countries tried that. It was called communism, and it just didn't work.
So let me
That's what a wonderful country we have. The best-known socialist in the country happens to be a millionaire with 3 houses. What am I missing here?
Well, you missed on work.
I mean, again, he's not wrong. And Bernie can't even counter this. And this is part of his, working class, working man explanation here.
In Washington, house watch,
the first problem.
live in Burlington, house 2.
That's good.
And like thousands of other Vermonters, I do have a summer camp. Forgive me. Where is your home?
How many, I would like to do a poll right now. How many people in the live chat right now have a summer camp? And I'm not just talking about a little cabin in the woods, because Bernie said summer camp. How many of you have a full summer camp? Let's see. Anyone, if you happen to have one, please speak up now. I'd like to take a poll to find these thousands. Note that he didn't say tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of Americans. He said thousands of people that have summer camps. So far I'm getting no, fine, nope. Jesse Meek says that he gave his up for Lent. Smiley says I have a tent. Me so trashed as a renter. Captain Pegs has a lake house. Okay. American Patriot says nope, not me. Nope, I sold mine to Bernie, says Comanche Viper. Niet says Havoc Vladimirovich Stalinov. Redneck Gamer says, I don't even know what a summer camp is. Freebird says nope. So far we have nopes. Regal has a summer mansion on the moon, apparently. Greg Andrews lives in New Jersey, says he can barely afford his house. Fixed Bayonet does. Okay, good for you. If you have an entire camp. Because I want to know what a summer camp is. Like, I mean, is he meaning like the YMCA or like the Salvation Army, or is he just talking about like a lake house? And I mean, is he talking about like a timeshare or like a lake house in a community, or, one of these towns where you can get a house for $20,000? Or is he talking about some like major acreage? I would really want to know. But of course, his answer to that has always been, well, I wrote a book. And anyone can write a book. And so that's why I can have 3 homes and still call myself a champion of the working class. Trashman says, I saved and bought 20 acres in the woods for my own range. So sort of. Right. I mean, buying some land, I think, is different. But I mean, the thing is are you buying this summer camp on top of 2 other homes, one in DC and one in Vermont? Bernie Sanders really has no idea the plight of the working class and working class Americans. That is for sure. And like I said, I really resent the fact that I have to compliment Bloomberg on some of his sick burns, and that I had to compliment Elizabeth Warren on some of her sick burns from that night. So that was the oh, there was actually one more clip of the Bloomberg bashing, and this actually went after both of them. I think both Bernie and Bloomberg, and it is also quite accurate. Here we go.
We could wake up 2 weeks from today, the day after Super Tuesday, and the only candidates left standing will be Bernie Sanders and Mike Bloomberg, the two most polarizing figures on this stage. And most Americans don't see where they fit if they've got to choose between a socialist who thinks that capitalism is the root of all evil and a billionaire who thinks that money ought to be the root of all power. Let's put forward somebody who actually lives and works in a middle-class neighborhood.
I don't think that Mayor Pete is the answer to that, but he's not wrong about, basically, as South Park put it, was giant douche and a turd sandwich are the choices that Democrat voters are finding themselves here. And it's interesting because in a lot of the moderate vote, we'll say, seems to have been going to Pete Buttigieg and to Amy Klobuchar, and everyone on the stage is awful. All of their policies are awful. Everything is absolutely awful. But actually, we'll go to this last clip, the response to that, before we move on to the next topic here.
Senator Sanders, are you polarizing?
If speaking to the needs and the pain of a long-neglected working class is
which he knows nothing about.
Polarizing, I think you got the wrong word. What we are trying finally to do is to give a voice to people who, after 45 years of work, are not making a nickel more than they did 45 years ago.
If you have not gotten even a nickel raise in 45 years, you are in the wrong job and should have left that job at least 40 years ago.
Giving a voice to people who are saying we're sick and tired of billionaires like Mr. Bloomberg seeing huge expansions of their wealth while 500,000 people sleep out on the street tonight. And that's what we are saying, Pete. Maybe it's a time for the working class of this country to have a little bit of power in Washington rather than your billionaire campaign contributors.
And what's funny about this is Elizabeth Warren has gotten billionaire campaign contributors, and so does Bernie Sanders. All of the people on this stage, way back to even the first debate, Kamala Harris talked about it, and Cory Booker talked about it. They all swore up and down that no one is taking money from billionaires, and that is a flat-out lie. Flat-out lie. So, as I was saying, Pete does have a point here about a lot of moderate Americans feeling like they are left out and have to choose between a giant douche and a turd sandwich. And so I think that that's why Mayor Pete is getting some of these votes. I mean, Biden originally was assumed to be the front runner, and then his teeth started falling out and he was stuttering along and looking sleepy Joe Biden. And just he fumbles continually, so he's not getting it. And I will say, I looked at all of their campaign platforms, and they're pretty much all of the same. There's not really any difference. I mean, there's small, maybe little gradients of difference. But I mean, the only thing that I noticed was, I do have to appreciate Amy Klobuchar's take on mental health. And that's something that we have talked about a lot here. I don't think that the federal government has any business in really having anything to do with mental health, but she does talk about wanting to create more inpatient beds in mental health hospitals and substance abuse hospitals, which is a major problem. At least here in Massachusetts, if you go into the emergency room for a mental health emergency on a weekend or a holiday weekend, you are sitting in the emergency room for at least 5 days. I've had people sit, not even on the weekend, not even on a holiday, sit in the emergency room for an entire week before a bed opens up that they can go to. And I mean, that's not any sitting in an emergency room in like a little in the hallway or in a little curtained off like enclave is not any form of mental health treatment and does not promote any sort of mental wellness at all. And actually, she also talks about forming community mental health centers, which are originally what were supposed to take the place of all the beds that were taken away back when JFK started deinstitutionalization, and surprise, they never got built. She, talks about early intervention programs, which happen in Massachusetts and basically sort of just ensure that a whole bunch of other kids are looped up in the system and given mental health diagnoses and medications, which is not cool. But she also talks about supporting nonprofits and even, private sector mental health jobs. And she talks about wanting to increase accessibility for rural communities, but she does it in the form of being like, oh, well, we'll just make sure there are more psychologists there. You can't force people to become therapists or psychologists or psychiatrists. So I don't know how on earth she plans to do that. An interesting thing is she does talk about wanting to train police in mental health crisis treatment or intervention, really, which, I mean, if you are in the Liberty sphere, you might remember Kelly Thomas, for example, was the homeless man with schizophrenia that was basically beaten to death by police. And a lot of the issues that come up between police and citizens are mental health related. I saw a super chat in here. Gardner says, I thought it was amusing that Mayor Pete used to call Bernie his role model, and it was telling that as they slammed Bloomy for stop and frisk, they only looked at race, not the Fourth Amendment for all. That is absolutely true, and that's going to be coming in. Unfortunately, the technical difficulties ended up taking up more time than I thought that they would. What's interesting is the moderators have been promoting Bloomberg as a centrist or a moderate when he's not, and everyone else is just comparing him to Trump. But I do want to make sure that I get to... there was a little bit talk of Bernie Bros. Now, for those of you who have missed it, there have been some controversies lately with Bernie and his campaign people. If you've seen any of the videos of his rallies recently, you might have seen some titties hanging out while people yelled about dairy farmers, or you might have seen the brawl over the Black Guns Matter t-shirt, or you might even have seen the videos from Project Veritas of his supporters talking about violent revolution and how if he doesn't get elected, they're just going to like break out the violence and sort of try to take over. So in the case of the so basically what's happening is every time Bernie, well, not every time, a lot of the times now that Bernie has a rally, some rando gets up on stage, whether it's like PETA people, vegan protesters, whatever, complaining about how he's like supporting big dairy, and they run up and they just take the mic away from him and start yelling into it, and they take their shirt off, and there's just like boobs on stage or random people on stage. And I know that some of the men in the audience will appreciate that for different reasons, but that's not really what you would expect from a political rally. At least anyone with any like modicum of professionalism. And then there was the other rally where there was basically there were two Bernie supporters, and they really were not that far from the stage. One of them said that he was there because he supported Bernie on pretty much everything except gun control, and the other guy was your typical, liberal hipster. And the gun guy had a Black Guns Matter t-shirt on, and was a person of color. He was a black guy. And the other guy, the Bernie bro, was a white guy who accused the black dude of being racist because he said that his shirt was racist and that he was discounting all black lives. And then they ended up getting in a fist fight. They were shoving each other and hitting each other. And Bernie did not pause for a single second during his speech. And security didn't intervene. Like, nothing happened. Everything just kept going on, business as usual. And eventually some people like helped them spread apart and broke it up. And everything just kept going on, business as usual. And then there have been some exposés, we'll call it, of Bernie bros and some of the things that they do and say online. And I will say that there have been, like, on my minimum wage video, for example, or my Bernie Learns Economics video, I got some pretty nasty comments from people that had handles about, like, being for Bernie Sanders or being a Bernie bro or being for AOC or whatever, accusing me of being a rich Jewish person, and that's why I don't support minimum wage, which is kind of ironic because I'm pretty sure that Bernie Sanders is Jewish. I'm not. And really, I mean, if we're talking about being inclusive and not doing any microaggressions and things like that, you probably should not be, associating rich people with Jewish people or vice versa. Because, I mean, that could come off as anti-Semitic, really. So, and there have been some exposés about Bernie bros being racist or sexist or doing microaggressions and blah, 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 blah. Before I show that clip and listen to that loud car, Jesse Meek says Gardner Goldsmith has it right. Has anyone heard any of the Dems address issues of any part of the Constitution? Of course not. Of course not. Someone says Bernie wears a diaper as a hat. Oh, goodness. So, Bernie, of course, tries to throw his weight around as to, oh, well, I have this many Twitter followers, and that's why we're going to win. And unfortunately, he backs himself right into the Bernie bro discussion.
We have over 10.6 million people on Twitter.
Because really, that's how you tell how much of a quality person you are and your value as a person, by how many Twitter subscribers you have.
And 99.
And by the way, not all those people on his Twitter are fans. I follow Bernie Sanders on Twitter for obvious reasons.
0.9% of them are decent human beings, are working people, are people who believe in justice, compassion, and love.
I've met very few Bernie supporters, actually, that I thought were decent people. I'm going to be real. And I mean, as human beings in their, like, moral fiber, and also in terms of their emotional health, we'll say.
And if there are a few people who make ugly remarks, who attack trade union leaders, I disown those people. They are not part of our movement.
Did he actually ever, does anyone know if he disowned the guy that went after, that was a Bernie Sanders supporter and had been on the Bernie Sanders, like, campaign as a volunteer, and then went and, like, shot at Congress people? Did he ever, like, disavow and disown that guy? Anyone know?
But let me also say, what I hope my friends up here will agree with, is that if you look at the Wild West of the internet, talk to some of the African...
For some reason, that just, like, that line to me made him seem so old if he's saying the Wild West of the internet. And if anyone who knows anything about history, the Wild West really wasn't all of that wild, really.
American women on my campaign. Talk to Senator Nina Turner. Talk to others and find the vicious, racist, sexist attacks that are coming their way as well.
So that's him basically saying it cut off one of the words, but he was saying, well, look at all these African Americans that I have on my campaign. So basically he's saying, well, I'm not racist or sexist because I have black people working for my campaign. When it's funny because one of the things that you see when you encounter a lot of SJWs is they'll say, oh, well, you know that you're racist if you say, I'm not a racist because I have a black friend. He's doing the black friend thing to say that he's not racist.
So I would hope that all of us understand that we should do everything we possibly can to end the viciousness and ugliness on the internet. Our campaign is about issues.
And I feel like that would turn into total First Amendment violations if we're really trying to stop the viciousness on the internet.
About fighting for the working families and the middle class. It is not about vicious attacks on other people.
Senator Winston.
It's not about vicious attacks against other people, but this entire debate was vicious attacks against other people.
You say that you disown these attacks and you didn't personally direct them. I believe you.
Well,
but at a certain point, you got to ask yourself, why did this pattern arise? What?
And that is an excellent question. Points to Mayor Pete. 5 points for Hufflepuff.
Is it especially the case among your supporters?
I don't think it is especially the case.
That's just not true. Look.
That's it. He's not wrong. It isn't true.
People know. Pete, if you want to talk to some of the women on my campaign, what you will
I'm not sexist because I have women on my campaign.
see is the most ugly, sexist, racist attacks that I won't even describe them here. They're so disgusting. Now, let me say something.
Ugly, racist, sexist attacks. You know, and someone pointed out to me on Facebook earlier today. I mean, this is like mildly related. I stopped at a perfect clip of Bernie's face there. You know, saying that, you know, his people don't ever engage in any attacks and things like that. Well, what about all the attacks on gun owners? And specifically, someone pointed out to me earlier, you know, every time that someone says, oh, you know, gun owners have tiny penises and gun owners are making up for their overcompensating for their genitals. This is coming from the same group of people that are all about body positivity and say that you can't body shame anyone, but they are body shaming people hypothetically for assuming their genital size.
That's about this. Not being too paranoid. All of us remember 2016. And what we remember is efforts by Russians and others to try to interfere in our election. And
I'm going to stop that right there. Complaining about Russia and the Russian bots. So I opened up like about 10 minutes before I came on. I opened up my internet browser and saw this. I didn't have time to read it. But just to be clear, Bernie Sanders briefed by U.S. officials that Russia is trying to help his presidential campaign. Oh man! So I'll post this for you guys in the chat, so you can go after it later and check it out. It is a long link, and I apologize for that. But yeah, so the Russians apparently want to help Bernie Sanders, but you know, remember how awful it was in 2016 when the Russians were helping Donald Trump. I don't remember which clip I was on. It was probably this one.
divide us up. I'm not saying that's happening, but
it's the Russians that are trying to divide us here, not us trying to divide each other and attack each other. It's the Russians that are making us insult each other.
Not shocking. I saw some of those tweets regarding the Culinary Workers Union. I have a 30-year, 100% pro-union voting record. Do you think I would support, or anybody who supports me would be attacking union leaders?
Well, there was that whole issue that I did a video about of, Bernie promising his union workers a bunch of things, well, unionizing them first of all, and then getting pissed off when they made demands and then refusing to pay them the minimum wage he advocates for, the $15 minimum wage, and all the negotiation battles and union battles and strikes that happened because of it. There was that whole thing.
Unthinkable.
But leadership is about what you draw out of people. It's about how you inspire people to act.
And who would ever think that communists would be violent?
And right now we're in this toxic political environment. Leadership isn't just about policy. I think, at least in broad terms, we're largely pulling in the same direction on policy.
And that is true. They're pretty much all the same person, except Bloomberg's got more money and kind of like flaunts it. And Bernie is a flat out communist. Otherwise, yes, they're pretty much all the same.
Leadership is also about how you motivate people to treat other people. I think you have to accept some responsibility and ask yourself what it is about your campaign in particular that seems to be motivating this behavior more than others. Because in order to turn the page on the Trump era, we're going to need a president, not just a candidate who can win.
I have an idea of how we can stop sexism on the internet.
This part is great.
We could nominate a woman for candidate for president of the United States. I think that might.
That will fix everything. Sexism will never exist ever again if we just vote for a woman. And yet, one of the number one arguments that I hear from leftists is that people didn't like Obama because he was black. And anyone that didn't like Obama was racist. And once Obama was elected, oh my God, they were more racist than ever because we had a black president. But you can stop sexism by voting for Amy Klobuchar. I mean, and to the point of, when they're talking about taking accountability for the people in your campaign and taking responsibility for that. I mean, commies going to commie. Commies are going to be violent. But I mean, I don't think that you can say that it's Bernie's fault that his people are violent. And, it's not Bernie's fault that someone decided to go, shoot at some Congress people. Just as it's not Trump's fault that there was the guy in New Zealand and stuff that cited Trump or any of the other people that have cited Trump. It's not their fault. They're not holding a gun to anyone's head and saying, hey, go do this violent act. So you can't blame them for it. But at the same time, the number one candidate that's supported by Antifa is Bernie Sanders. So, there's that. There's that. I mean, and there are the people in his campaign that have talked about, violent uprising and how this is their last shot at revolution. This is the last shot before they take out the violence stick. Joseph Justice, thank you for your donation. I saw another couple super chats here. And then he says, what will it take to get back to the Reagan administration? I think we are too far gone, honestly. I think... I don't see any way of getting back to any of the politics of the Reagan administration or anything like that without some kind of violence happening. I just don't see how that's possible at all. Deja Voodoo Doll says, Antifa versus alt-right terrorism, who has killed more people? Well, I mean, the question there is too, I don't think Antifa has killed anyone. They have certainly attacked people, though there have been a lot of mass shooters that were leftists. And the thing is, but I mean, there's also been mass shooters that were on the right. The problem is, too, your definition of extreme alt-right, that varies from person to person. And really, I think that extremes on either end are bad, just like, extreme Muslims are bad or extreme fundamentalists, anything are not great. Extremes are generally not great. So, whatever. But, let's go. So anyways, and then so we'll go on to the big topic. Well, wait, let me get Jim first. Here are some capitalist dollars to help support your fight against communism. Thank you. And again, you can check out Libertarian Country. Oops. Oh, man. I'm clicking on things that I'm not meaning to click on here. Trashman says, I see their violent stick and raise them my thunder stick. So yes, you can help fight communism by getting your Enjoy Capitalism shirt that I believe comes in different colors over at Libertarian Country. They have men and women's sizes. So one other thing that I definitely want to, well, actually, so no D&D tonight, so I have time to get to everything. So we'll take a poll. Do we want to go to Medicare for all, or do we want to talk a little bit about stop and frisk first? We'll take a vote. Why not, right? Everyone's commenting instead about my shirt. Is that a capital C on that shirt? Well, yes, because it's like the Coca-Cola logo. So, all right, we have most of the views. Okay, so far, most of the ones that I see are for Medicare. So we'll go to Medicare first. All right, this is the one that actually I have more about anyways. So I found some interesting tidbits here. So the big thing is this is where some people finally came out and started attacking Bernie as far as his healthcare policies and Medicare for all. They talk about how the big complaint is how Medicare for all would effectively kill off private insurance. So let's go see that.
That your healthcare plan will take away their healthcare plan, take away private insurance completely. There are some Democrats who like you a lot, but worry that this plan, Medicare for All, is going to take away private insurance and that it goes too far. Are they right? No.
Nope. Nope, it's not going to ban private insurance, he says. Well, so the funny thing is if you go to this link from NBC, now this was way back and it was in regards to Kamala Harris and some of the plans that she put forth and when she endorsed Bernie's plan. And, oh, that's weird. A fingerprinter on the page? Okay. Let's see. Where is it here? In fact, the bill would outright ban private insurance that provides similar coverage to the new Medicare for All plans after a short transition period. That means everyone with comprehensive employee benefits or a private plan through the Affordable Care Act today would be moved into Medicare. Private health insurance would be gone. It would be null and void. But Bernie says nope. Oh, not at all, he says. So then everyone starts attacking. Well, really, Elizabeth Warren comes out like with the nunchucks and the ninja stars and the tomahawk and all of that. And she's just going after everybody because, I mean, she's just about dead on the campaign trail at this point. So she's pulling out all the stops.
Here. Mayor Buttigieg really has a slogan that was thought up by his consultants to paper over
his face
thin version of a plan that would leave millions of people unable to afford their health care. It's not a plan, it's PowerPoint. And Amy's plan is even less. It's like a Post-it note. Insert plan here. Bernie has started very much
totally brutal.
Has a good start, but instead of expanding and bringing in more people to help, instead his campaign relentlessly attacks everyone who asks a question or tries to fill in details about how to actually make this work.
That's not wrong, but she has also been brutally attacking people the entire debate.
And then his own advisors say, probably won't happen anyway. Look, healthcare is a crisis in this country. My approach to this is we need as much help for as many people as quickly as possible and bring in as many supporters as we can. And if we don't get it all the first time, take the win and come back into the fight to ask for more.
I mean, technically, the ACA was not getting it the first time, and we can't go back in and ask for more because there won't be the money to go in and ask for more. That's not how it works. And so, of course, then this is how Pete responds. This actually was pretty funny. Oh, before that, they were fighting over who's going to talk next.
Microsoft Word guy, and if you look at my plan, I don't know if there are any PowerPoints on it, but you can definitely find the document on PeteForAmerica.com, and you'll see that it is a plan that solves the problem, makes sure there is no such thing as an uninsured American, and does it without...
You can't ever, as a side note, you can't ever guarantee that there will be no such thing as an uncovered American, because there's still going to be people who, even if they have the option, might opt out of getting health insurance. Just to put that out there.
Picking anybody off the plan that they have. This idea that the union members don't know what's good for them is the exact kind of condescension and arrogance that makes people skeptical of the policies we've been putting forward.
And that is true. It's basically the leftist ideology that they know what's better for you than you do.
Here we have a plan that the majority of Americans support. Do you realize how historic that is? That the American people are ready in a way far beyond what was true even 10 years ago and what was available to President Obama at the time. There's a powerful American majority.
Powerful.
Ready to undertake the biggest,
so powerful,
most progressive reform we've had in healthcare in 50 years, just so long as we don't force it on anybody. What is wrong with that?
I mean, and he's not wrong. I mean, I don't agree with any of their universal care, Medicare for all bullcrap, but I mean, he is right about you can't force these things on anyone because it just won't work. I'll give him that.
Well, I think the Post-it note came first, Senator. I don't know how you I do think the Post-it note came.
They can't even figure out like who's going to talk next, let alone figure out any policies. And then we get into the topic of cost. And of course, Bernie Sanders goes off and says, well, if Europe can do it, we can do it. And, if France can do it and Canada can do it and Scandinavia can do it and all these places can do it, well, then we can do it. But he takes it a step further and says, not only will we do it, we will do it with no deductibles, no premiums, and no cost to anyone, which is a total lie because it needs to be paid for by taxes. But, of course, how will we pay for it? No one knows. No one actually says. Though there was that one time that Bernie Sanders did say that it was going to raise taxes, but he never said by how much.
To do the same. But I'm actually less concerned about the lack of transparency on Sanders' personal health than I am about the lack of transparency on how to pay for his health care plan, since he said that it's impossible to even know how much it's going to cost.
That's a great look.
And even after raising taxes on everybody making $29,000, there is still a
We're going to remember that $29,000 figure for a minute here.
$1 trillion hole. Matter of fact, if you add up his policies all together, they come to $50 trillion. He's only explained $25 trillion worth of revenue, which means that the hole in there,
I just want to point out, like, Biden is in the background, like frozen.
Is bigger than the size of the entire economy of the United States. The time has come to level with the American people on matters personal and on matters of
Thank you, Senator Sanders.
And as someone is saying in there, Steve Lundgren is saying, well, what about the $22 trillion national debt? That is true. So we're going to add this gigantic hole from all of Bernie Sanders' policies on top of that $22 trillion. That's insane. Not to mention, all of a sudden, now that it's Trump that's in the White House, now leftists are concerned about the national debt, except when it comes to Bernie Sanders and his policies.
Next level.
All right, let's level, Pete. Under your
Let's level.
plan, which is a maintenance continuation of the status quo. That's the, can I finish? The average American today is paying $12,000 a year. That's what that family is paying. 20% of a $60,000 income, $12,000 a year. Highest prices in the world for prescription drugs.
So I want to say, part of the reason why prescription drug prices are so high is because of government or regulation that actually allows them to do that. And as far as the cost of health plans, it is your state legislators that decide how much insurance companies can charge in your state. Just throwing that out there. And I forgot where I was going with the rest of that, but we'll just click then.
Just the other day, a major...
Oh, that's right. The other reason why prescription drug prices are so high is because with the rest of the world kind of having this socialized medicine, the United States and our industry and our research and things like that ends up subsidizing a lot of these other countries in the international market. And when you subsidize something, you end up having to pay more for it on the back end. And so that's another reason why our prices are so high.
Study came out from Yale epidemiologist in Lancet, one of the leading medical publications in the world.
This is important.
What they said, my friends, is Medicare for All will save $450 billion a year.
So I went looking for this study that he says proves that Medicare for All and will save everyone tons and tons of money. So let's pull up this Yale study here from the Lancet. So I will try to put the PDF link in there so that you guys don't have to make an account, because I had to make an account. So this is where he gets his figure from, is this study. We'll pull it up here, and then I will tell you some key points. So this is the study that he is talking about. Oh, come on. I'm trying to pull this over onto this screen here. There we go. Okay. So let's check this out. So this is the study. Improving the prognosis of healthcare in the USA. Now, first of all, when you read this thing and you read the summary, this is a medical journal, but this study really reads more like an endorsement for Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders than it does for any sort of actual study, quite frankly. And in this study, the first thing that you might notice here is the 13% savings in national healthcare expenditure, equivalent to more than $450 billion annually. So he was using the $450 billion figure to make it sound really big and extravagant, but really it comes down to 13%. 13% is really not all that big, right? And if you further read this study, they talk about how they came to these numbers. First, they note that, it's going to make me register. Darn it. All right. Well, I guess I'm not going to sit here and do this and log in, but you guys can, I posted the link down in the description, so you guys can get it. You can set up a free account and just lie and say that you're a doctor, basically. But so in this study, they talk about the way that they came up with their numbers. And one of the things they do first off the bat is they admit that there are so many different figures that Bernie has thrown around and put into this bill that there's no actual way to determine costs. So everyone's come up with their own different numbers, and that's how you get everywhere from that it'll cost X amount of money and put us in the hole versus it will instead it will, save all this money. Da 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 da. So what they did is they came up with this sliding scale tool that they put in all of these different numbers and play with it until they can figure out what will make it work to save money rather than cost money. So that's what they had to do. And it goes across like 8 different dimensions of numbers and prices and things that they had to play around with to get it just to a point where it would save 13% and not cost trillions and trillions of dollars. So what they had to put in this sliding scale tool, for example, is reducing reimbursement rates for doctors by 38%. Now, I know that there are a lot of people that are like, oh, doctors get paid too much anyways. Well, you have to consider doctors go through 7 years of medical school, plus a residency after, and, their clinical rotations and all of this stuff. And that costs a boatload of money. Doctors are typically like hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And, furthermore, as far as like clinical rotations and things like that, like people don't realize this. And I didn't realize this until I actually had clients that were doctors and going through medical school. So you go through medical school and then you have to get your residency. You apply to a bunch of different places and you have to like match. It's not where like I'm going to go to Brockton, Massachusetts, and that's what it is. You have to pick like Brockton as your number one, and then Brockton has to pick you as their number one. And if you don't match, you don't get to go. There is no coverage for like moving costs or anything like that. So not only are they like hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, but then they also have to like pay to move and find their own apartment and all of these things, just like everyone else does when they accept a job. And, so we're saying, the other thing is like, can you really put a number on like someone saving your life? I mean, I am a capitalist and I am in mental health, and that's under the umbrella of healthcare. But regardless, like, so they're going to take 38% away from, and not just doctors, nurses, CNAs, EMTs, who, by the way, only make minimum wage anyways, and you're going to try to give them a reimbursement rate of 38% less. And so that's just for doctors, nurses, therapists like myself, CNAs, group home people, the people that like sit and babysit in the group homes and things like that. And, a lot of these people aren't out there driving like BMWs or anything anyways. I mean, my doctor flat out one day was telling me about her like 10-year-old Toyota Corolla. Okay. So 38% away from doctors and 74% away from hospitals. So they are going to reduce reimbursement rates from hospitals by 74% in order to get a savings on this program. And now, yes, hospitals charge a lot of money. I recently got so my husband had to go to the emergency room a few weeks ago when we got our EOB, and that's your explanation of benefits. And the emergency room visit came out to like $4,000 or something like that. And that is a lot. But he was also there for like 12 hours. He got a whole bunch of tests. He got a CAT scan. He got all of this stuff. I think it's a little exorbitant, but part of that is the fact that like to get paid the full amount by insurance companies, you have to overcharge or else they will under reimburse you. And it's a ridiculous, stupid system. But regardless, so you're going to reduce reimbursement rates at hospitals for 74%. Now keep in mind that in this example, the $4,000 bill that I got from the emergency room, that is going to pay not just the doctors that were there, that's going to pay the techs, that's going to pay the nurses, that's going to pay the nurses' aides, that's going to pay the people that triaged us. That's going to pay for the secretary person downstairs that checked us in and then took our copay. That's going to pay for the security guard that was standing by the door. I don't know if other hospitals have security guards, but in this area. They do, because it's not the greatest. So I mean, that $4,000 isn't just going to the doctor that saw us, and actually multiple doctors saw us. That's going to the CAT scan tech, the person that came in, and the phlebotomist that drew blood. That covers everyone in that whole chain of command. And then of course you have bills like the ACA that were put in and increased the administrative burden exponentially within the healthcare field. Someone has to be paid to do that paperwork. Someone has to be paid to do that medical billing. And that $4,000 emergency room bill is paying for all of those people and trickling all down the line. And then they are going to reduce those payments by 74%. So, okay. So the hospital is going to get 74% less. That means your doctors are going to get less on top of the 38% less that they're already getting. Your secretaries, your janitors, your people, your lunch ladies in the cafeteria, your housekeepers, all of these people, your handymen, your medical billers, all of these people down the line are going to see a 74% reduction in their pay because the hospital isn't getting the money to begin with. Jesse Meek says radiologist, janitor, midget in the vending machine, etc. Now Marauder 1024 mentioned the surgery center in Oklahoma. So that is that I had talked about it, I think, on a previous live stream, where they are very transparent, and they don't take they post the prices of their surgeries, and I believe they also don't take insurance. And because they don't take insurance, they are able to reduce their prices drastically. And anyways, so this study, once they were able to decrease hospital payments by 70, or decrease reimbursement rates for hospitals by 74%, and decrease doctors, nurses, all of those other people in that umbrella by 38%, comes down to about a $1,000 savings per person. And that is it. But that is before the additional 5% payroll tax per person. Now, remember that number that Pete threw out about the $29,000 salary? So this 5% extra tax on someone who's making $29,000 is $1,450. So someone who is making $29,000 a year is going to pay an additional $1,450 in taxes for a $1,000 savings in healthcare costs. Think about that for a minute. And this is the study that is promoting Medicare for All and Bernie's plan and Elizabeth Warren's plan, and that Bernie is citing in these debates. And you know that there are very few people that are pulling up this study and actually reading it. It will cost money to save money. And in the end, this person who only makes $29,000 a year is actually $450 in the hole. On top of it, they also had to put in an extra 10% payroll tax on the employer side. So people are going to be putting tons and tons and tons of money. Now imagine someone that makes $50,000 a year, we'll say, or what's the medium average income right now? Like 45,000, we'll say. So 45,000 times 5%, $2,250. Okay, so someone's going to be paying in $2,250 to save $1,000. Look how much money they saved by paying more money. But of course, you guys all knew that. Anyone who is here and is a follower of my channel knows that what it comes down to is the taxes, right? Robin Patty says, if they give you everything, then we can all quit if they give you everything, then we can all quit our jobs and live off of free stuff. I mean, and anyone who is on Medicare knows that it's a terrible, terrible, terrible insurance. I just see someone in here called Rehoboth Farm. Is that Rehoboth, Massachusetts? But and if we had Medicare for all, I have to wonder where that would leave me, for example. So my degree and licensure is LMHC, licensed mental health counselor. Any sort of counselor, whether it's pastoral counselors, licensed mental health counselors, licensed practicing counselors, that's what they're called in South Carolina. In other places, none of these people are covered under Medicare. I'm not covered under Medicare. Social workers are covered under Medicare, and I get more training than they do, but they're covered and I'm not. So theoretically, a bunch of us counselors would be out of a job, and it's illegal for anyone to accept cash payment from someone who has Medicare. So these people are only going to be able to go to social workers. There will be an even bigger shortage of mental health treatment than there already is because we won't be covered. And by the way, there have been bills submitted by the ACA and representatives that they're working with year after year after year to get counselors covered under Medicare, and it never passes. They have no interest in actually wanting to expand mental health care, despite saying that they do. Now, finally, we will get to stop and frisk. All right. So this comes out on the question when they say, okay, well, who can best beat Trump? Who is best poised to beat Trump? And Bloomberg gives these reasons.
I was a mayor. I know how to run a complicated city, the biggest, most diverse city in this country. I'm a manager.
Yes, he was the mayor and manager for one of the most diverse cities in the country, and then had this horrible, horrible, horrible stop and frisk policy that had tons and tons of people like protesting, and we'll just keep going.
Knew what to do after 9/11 and brought the city back stronger than ever. And I'm a philanthropist who didn't inherit his money, but made his money.
Can we count like putting tons and tons of money into every town for gun safety as actually being a philanthropist? Because I mean, gun control is an inherently anti-minority and anti-people, and it's about control rather than any sort of charitable, life-saving anything.
And I'm spending that money to get rid of Donald Trump, the worst president we have ever had.
No, he's spending that money on gun control and his campaign ads.
If I can get that done, it will be a great contribution to America and to my kids.
Vice President Biden,
I can't believe anyone would ever even have sex with him so that he could have kids.
in terms of who can beat Donald Trump, NBC did a poll yesterday. It says Joe Biden is best equipped to beat Donald Trump.
No. Just no. No, no, no.
So your poll said. And it said that I can beat him in those toss-up states, too, those states we have to win. I'm ahead by 8 points across the board. So in terms of being able to beat Donald Trump, I'm better positioned, according to your poll, than anybody else to beat Donald Trump. Number one. Number two, the mayor makes an interesting point. The mayor says that he has a great record, that he's done these wonderful things. Well, the fact of the matter is...
He can't even talk right. And this is about the only useful thing that Joe Biden actually said in this entire debate.
He has not managed his city very, very well when he was there. He didn't get a...
And that's true. Like I'm surprised like no one like talked about like the sugary drink tax or any of the other crap that he wanted to do. It's surprising that no one is bringing this up. Ken Meyer says he looks like a corpse. He does. He actually does look like a painted up corpse from a funeral home. And I really hate to say that, but it's true.
Whole lot done. He has stop and frisk, throwing close to 5 million young black men up.
Everyone, I probably can't say this on the air, so check out XLXLFFD's comment.
against the wall. And when we came along in our administration, President Obama, and said we're going to send in a moderator to a mediator to stop it, he said that's unnecessary. So we're going to get a chance to talk about the mayor's record. But in terms of who is best prepared to beat Donald Trump, look at your poll and what it says. Mayor Buttigieg.
Blah, 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 blah. So then after that, Bloomberg kind of just like ignores that part about Joe Biden and then goes on and apologizes, we'll say briefly, for those policies. And as someone noted, nothing comes up about it being, a constitutional issue or a civil liberty issue or any of that. He just says, oh, well, we accidentally stopped too many people.
Topic, so let's get into it. In 2015, this is how you describe your policing policy as mayor. Quote, we put all the cops in the minority neighborhoods. And you explain that as, quote, because that's where all the crime is. You went on to say...
And I mean, he's not wrong about there being a lot of crime in poor neighborhoods, but where he takes it the wrong way is saying, well, it's only people of color that commit crime, and that is not at all the case. I mean, yes, there are a lot of people of color that end up in some of these poor neighborhoods, but I mean, that's not the case. I mean, you can look to any poor rural area in the South or even some of the ones around here, and it's full of white people. The issue is that poverty and, joblessness, high unemployment rates, foreclosure rates, all of these things contribute to crime. It's not just because there happens to be, black or brown people in the neighborhood.
The way you should get the guns out of the kids' hands is to throw them against the wall and frisk them. You've apologized for that policy, but what does that kind of language say about
is so messed up to say that we're going to just throw you against the wall and use force to take the gun out of your hand. I mean, that's being used to talk about stop and frisk, but really, I mean, that's his policy across the board with gun control, that he is going to use any amount of force necessary to take guns away from people.
How you view people of color or people in minority neighborhoods?
Well, if I go back and look at my time in office, the one thing that I'm really worried about, embarrassed about, was how it turned out with stop and frisk. When I got into office, there were 650 murders a year in New York City. And I thought that my first responsibility was to give people the right to live. That's the basic right of everything.
And that is ironic, because by taking the power of self-defense away from people, you are taking away their right to live if they find themselves in any kind of violent situation.
And we adopted a policy which had been in place, the policy that all big police departments use, of stop and frisk. What happened, however, was it got out of control.
Yes, so out of control. And I will say, one of the arguments that I've seen in favor of this policy is that it is approved by the Supreme Court. But I mean, the fact of the matter, it does go against the Bill of Rights and, I mean, unjust search and seizure. I mean,
I discovered that we were doing too many stop and frisks. We cut 95% of it out. So, I mean, his problem here is not that people complained that the policy was racist. His problem is, we accidentally frisked too many people. That is not the issue. Sat down with a bunch of African-American clergy and business people to talk about this, to try to learn. I've talked to a number of kids who've been stopped. And I was trying to understand how we change our policies so we can keep the cities.
Oh, and Antron DeBaum says, I'm from rural poor area and now live in a big metro. Now you're wrong. Much more violent crime here. I didn't say that there's more violent crime in like poor rural areas. I'm saying that it's not only people of color, black people, brown people, whatever, that are poor poor. I'm saying that white people are just as capable of being poor, and it's poverty contributes the most to crime, not a race or ethnicity, was my point.
Safe, because the crime rate did go from 650, 50% down to 300, and we have to keep the lid on crime, but we cannot go out and stop people indiscriminately.
Mayor, thank you. Let me go to Vice President Biden on this. You want to
That was such like a weak apology. I mean, he's saying, "Oh, well, we can't go out there and stop people indiscriminately." And well, the thing is, it's like he didn't. They were definitely targeting certain people for sure. And and he says that, "Oh, well, he went out and he spoke to pastors and children and all of these people to try to learn, and that's why he stopped the policy." That is not why he cut back on the policy. He cut back on the policy because of outrage, because people were protesting, and people across the country were speaking out against this policy because this policy was ridiculous and violated basic civil rights. But and then his final point was that if we took down off that stage everyone who was wrong about criminal justice at one point in time, we wouldn't have any candidates left. So basically he's saying, well, everyone else did it, so it's okay that I did it. And that is a bullshit answer. Bullshit answer for sure. And I mean, that basically sums up the whole argument about stop and frisk. The only really question of note that Bernie Sanders got was about like taxes and paying for Medicare for all. And you heard that and how they duked it all out. So unfortunately, I was not able to catch the tail end of the debate, as like I said, a lot of the videos that I was watching and taking from went down as I was taking from them. So I had to shuffle around so many times that I didn't catch the tail end of it. But you guys got all the highlights there. I don't know if anyone else watched it and had anything else that they wanted to contribute in that. But all in all, it seems like the major winner out of this debate was Donald Trump and not anyone on that stage. And that seems to be the general consensus as well along the or from a lot of the big media outlets, is that as Michael Bloomberg said, and I hate to quote him, the best way to secure a win for Donald Trump is for anyone to listen to that debate, because it was absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely 100% insane. I mean, I can't say that I'm all that surprised, quite frankly, but I mean, it is what it is. I feel bad in a way for anyone who is really invested in like the system as a Democrat, because they have some absolutely crappy policies and some crappy candidates to choose from. There is no win there. And I mean, I can't see any of those people going up against Donald Trump and being successful. I mean, maybe Bloomberg if he threw enough money into it, but there's a lot of similarities between the two of them as far as, the billionaire thing and stuff like that. And everyone keeps saying, oh, he's like Trump, he's like Trump, he's like Trump. So, I mean, I think honestly, actually, because of that, I think that he would lose too if he was up against Trump, because people would just be like, oh, he's Trump light. I mean, Elizabeth Warren wouldn't stand a chance, and she's been like number 3 and 4 in the primaries anyways. Biden, oh my God, he can't even get a sentence out without stumbling on his words. Pete Buttigieg, he's gotten some support in the primaries so far, but I mean, quite frankly, he's the same as everyone else as far as their campaign. He just acts like he's not the same, but really, if you look down to it, it's all the same. I mean, the only difference with him, I suppose, is he's saying, oh, well, we shouldn't ban private health insurance. We should transition to a single payer system instead, which is basically the same thing, except delaying it a little bit longer. I really think that Bernie Sanders is going to come out on top. unless the DNC interferes directly, which they might. But then again, you have Bloomberg saying that he wants Hillary Clinton as his running mate. And I mean, number one, that's a good way to get suicided. But I mean, that could potentially pick up a bunch of the people that wanted Hillary to win in 2016. I think it's going to come down to Sanders versus Trump. And my God, that will at least be quite the show anytime there are debates. That is for sure. Michael Peel says Bloomberg is going to take Hillary as VP running mate and then resign so she can step in. That would be interesting. That would be interesting, and that is possible. Oh my God, but that would be such an upset. I think people would like riot in the streets if that happened. I can't. That would be insane. Insane. Hi-Fi 1970 says with Biden, all the other Dems have to do is talk about how old he is. Biden is pretty much unelectable. I mean, and at this point, you know, Obama still hasn't come out in support of him. So, I mean, he's not going to get the Obama people. He's got nothing, really. Someone who says that they're YouTube says Bloomberg is not a serious candidate. I believe he's acting as a Trump practice dummy. That is entirely possible as well. People are saying, oh, well, if that happens, secession. I actually got, I believe it was Robin today that sent me an article that there are some counties in Oregon that want to secede and become part of Idaho. I didn't get to read the article yet, and I'm not sure of the process of how that would actually work. But so that is your coverage of the debates and all the highlights of that. I do apologize for the technical difficulties and all the weird glitchy things in the beginning, but now I know never to use Chrome ever again for a live stream, because when they say that it works, it's a lie. So again, remember, you can get your Enjoy Capitalism shirt or any of the other awesome shirts, and there are some really good ones over at Libertarian Country. And we still have another 8 days for anyone who's not hooked up with the USCCA to sign up for a membership and get a chance to win $25,000. Or there's also a second prize of, it rotates as to whether it's a certain pistol or the amount of money like equal to the value of that pistol. I think you can get a gun safe as well. There's all kinds of different things that you can be entered to win. And yes, as I see in the comments, Chrome sucks. And Jesse Meek says there are still Obama people. Yes, there are. All right, guys. So thanks for tuning in and riding out this rough patch that we had with the technical difficulties and staying for the extra like half hour here. I'm trying to get some guests on for some further streams, but I don't know, they're not answering their emails. They say on Twitter that email me, and then I email them and then they don't get back to me. So we're going to figure that out and see what we do. So Felix says, thanks for teaching me politics. And yes, you said that earlier, and I'm sorry that I missed it. Okay, guys, so I am like hoarse from not drinking enough water and yelling into my microphone. So I will bid you all good night. As always, hit the like button. If you're new here, go over and subscribe, hit the notification bell, all of that fun stuff. And I will see you in the next one. As always, thanks for tuning in and helping me to spread the message of liberty.